All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to the second session in the Enterprise Quality Engineering track. The track we organized together with our partners Tricentis and SAP. So we just had a presentation from SAP and Tricentis about their vision on the world of quality and quality engineering. So this is the second one. This time we will talk about the best practices of SAP Business Assurance and quality engineering, of course. If you want to have a look at the last presentation of SAP and Tricentis, the recordings will be ready, I think, in a couple of weeks. After this session, we will have another presentation. It's of Doc Morris, an online apotheke, because it's a German company, and we help them to run every night test scripts in Tosca in their SAP environment. So that's really interesting to stay tuned as well. Before we start this presentation, one thing to mention, it will be in English. If you got some problems with asking questions, don't hesitate. Speakers are Dutch, so you can ask your questions in Dutch as well. If you don't understand, same. Just ask your questions and you'll be fine. You can ask your questions in between, so you don't have to wait till the end. And of course, that will be fine. There will be a recording of the session as well. So I will introduce Stefan and Pepijn. Stefan, Vice President Quality Engineering and Testing. That's a mouthful, with the focus of SAP on the world of SAP quality and SAP. Pepijn in the Netherlands, our subject matter expert in the world of SAP testing. So they know a lot of this topic, and they will tour you around in the world of SAP testing and the SAP Business Assurance report. Stefan, up to you.
Thank you very much, Thijs, and welcome everybody to this shower room, I understand. And you see on the side why the name. I haven't tested it actually, but if anybody's curious, just pull the string and see what's happening there. My name is Stefan Gerstner, a German guy living in the Netherlands with Sogeti for more than 25 years, so a dinosaur. And I'm working in an international team across all Sogeti entities, so beyond Netherlands. And our focus is to spread the word and to coordinate between the different entities, so that we not only in the Netherlands invent beautiful solutions, but we use it then also everywhere else. And I'm here together with Pepijn.
Yeah. Thank you, Stefan. And as we are testers, let's test it if there's some water from the showers or not. Yeah? Oh, no. Maybe it's dangerous. No, my name is Pepijn Paap. Stefan and Thijs already mentioned that I'm subject matter expert on SAP testing in the Netherlands. Like Stefan, but not in a group, but for many customers, I also do international jobs. So many SAP customers and clients and users are international. So it's not only located or designed for one country, but for many countries. So I bring a lot of experience in that area for SAP implementations, and all the challenges what it is facing. And today we will guide you guys through the World Assurance Report, the SAP World Assurance Report, and that's actually a survey. Stefan will tell a little bit more about it, but it's a survey done with a lot of customers. I will enrich that a little bit with the theory, because we have a new kid in town, that's TMAP Quality Engineering for SAP. It's the new baby of TMAP. So we have the umbrella with the 3 standard TMAP trainings, cross-functional, performing and organizing. Now this one is officially launched last week with an official global certification as well. So if you guys are interested, there is a flyer. All the information is on TMAP as well. So the survey, I will enrich that a little bit what's in the theory. And then finally, Stefan will close with how this all comes together in a client case. That's our presentation. Let's done.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Okay, so here we go. The Worldwide Business User Assurance report for SAP solutions. You may be familiar with the World Quality Report. It's something which we are issuing now for 15 years, but we found that the subject of SAP Business Assurance needed some more deep dive. So not only the generic, but a little bit more specific on that topic. And luckily, Tricentis also felt that there was a lack in the market, and they're sponsoring this report. So together, for the second time, we have issued the report. I think it was in June. And so it's still pretty fresh. And if you're interested in the details, there is a download available. So the link together with the presentation will be shared later. The report is too large to share everything. So basically we have 5 chapters there, but that would be longer than 3/4 of an hour, and it wouldn't allow Pepijn to bring in his specific experience there. So we have selected 3 topics where we give a glimpse of what's in the report and what we feel most relevant for now for this conversation. So it's on one side what's happening in the SAP landscape with S/4HANA, with move to the cloud, with BTP, stuff like that. What is the approach regarding quality engineering and business assurance, how to manage and how to give confidence to implementations and implementations there, and what are specific challenges which our respondents of the report are finding there and how to tackle with that. So that's a little bit the elements of the report which I will just give a few highlights of, and I hope I make you curious also regarding the report itself. Okay, let's get started. So the current SAP landscape. As I mentioned, the big topic for SAP today and also the coming years is the move to S/4HANA. So replacing the old ECC ERP system with a new S/4HANA application. And this is a big bet, and SAP has set a deadline. And clients who haven't done the move yet, they're realizing this deadline is coming closer. And that's why you see a lot of large projects in that environment happening. And actually what we found out is that the huge majority of SAP clients either has done the step or is on the move. So only 5 or 6% haven't made up their mind yet whether they should or they shouldn't. So there's a big wave coming. And interesting is then, okay, how is that happening? How are companies then dealing with a new implementation and then the new world of SAP? So basically what you see there always has been quite a divide between the SAP world and the non-SAP world, where typically SAP was a more rock-solid application, often in-house, on-premise, and mainly with a waterfall approach. While the rest of the world was quick in adapting agile and moving towards DevOps, this hasn't happened in the same pace in the SAP world. And you see this still. So while on the right side, 41% of the in the non-SAP world are already using agile and 25% DevOps, it is less in the SAP world. And in the SAP world, it's still waterfall, which is the dominant approach there. Compared to the last year research which we did, it's already a move in that direction also. But still, there is a difference in approach. There's a different speed in and a different approach in handling projects. So this is something to realize there, and it's also a learning curve there. How do I handle, how do I work in an agile DevOps way in an SAP context, and how does it integrate with the rest of my application landscape? The other thing which is happening, if you are moving into a more agile way of work, what you want to achieve is speed. So it is not having yearly or biannually releases. Ideally, it is weekly or daily, if that makes sense for your business model. And also there you see this is happening more and more. So the majority is in the monthly and quarterly speed, and a few are already in the, let's say, daily release. And I would be curious regarding the reality here. If we have SAP users in the room, and just a raise of hand, who is, okay, a few hands at least, have you already achieved, let's say, weekly release or monthly release, or what is your reality today? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But moving towards more agile approach there in at least parts of the business. Yeah. Okay. So this is something which is happening, and this also has implications for the way of working, obviously, because you can't do that with a traditional approach, which was let the key users do some manual testing in a more user acceptance way, and let's wait and see what's happening. You can't really apply that in an agile world. What you want there is a high degree of automation, so to give the confidence and the speed that you are able to achieve that. So this is a thing which is happening, and there, of course, test automation, Tricentis tooling are coming in as a key element to that solution. The key challenge also in a broader landscape is not only SAP testing, it is the whole end-to-end environment, and the complexity really starts there. It is the integration aspect, because typically it's not only the ECC or S/4HANA application, it's all the rest around that. It's other applications, it's handheld devices, it's you name it. It's a really complex scenario. And the question is, how can you handle that complexity, and what gives you confidence that you are good enough in order to go live with confidence there? And what you see there is that the aspect of API testing, so a lower level of testing, is gaining importance. It's not only the functional level, it's the API level. So a part of the, let's say, shift left aspect, which we touched before in the previous talk. Also the aspect of service virtualization, so simulating the non-SAP world, and by that being able to focus on the SAP changes themselves, has gained importance. So this is a relatively new subject for SAP clients, but it's absolutely worth your attention if you haven't looked into that. In addition to, of course, the classic elements like performance and security testing. So these are a few elements regarding landscape considerations, specifics of SAP, and how our responses acted to that. I think you can add a little bit of experience on that.
Yeah, definitely. So Stefan was already mentioning, in I think 2 slides back, how are SAP solutions deployed in many customers? Is it the waterfall approach? Is it the DevOps way of working? Or maybe we have a demand or supply or a safe way of working? So regardless, any organization, they have one of these IT delivery models. Do you guys know, or maybe you can guess, what is the most used or most common IT delivery model in an SAP world? You think it's the waterfall, the V model? And that was already from the survey. That's correct. But what you nowadays see is actually the most used ones are actually the V model, the Scrum, and the demand and supply. And you see the move now that people want to go to the demand and supply model. So that actually means that the requirements part, it's still a waterfall kind of approach, because you need to gather your requirements, you need to fine-tune them, you need to create your epics, your user stories, your features, and whatever. Then it will be handed over, and it's actually this slide. Then you will hand it over to the supply team. And the supply team can work in sprints. And I know for Achmea, we did a presentation there last year as well. They work in these kind of sprints, and they develop that. It's more like, if I look at it from the user perspective, it's like a black box. No, the development teams or the sprint teams are actually developing. They do all their magic here, the coding, development test, and the system test. And eventually, I want to hand it over back to the key user organization to do the user acceptance test. This is what you often see in SAP landscapes. And again, nowadays you see it works in a lot of sprints. It can also still be the waterfall method or the V model method, but you see the slow move to this kind of approach. And the bottom side, the supply side, is mainly done by the IT people. So the functional consultants, the business analysts, those kind of people are involved there. But on the demand side, it's the real business. No, the end users, they're important. They are also accepting the end solution. They need to work with it on a daily basis. I also know in some cases, who is responsible for the acceptance test. It's called the user acceptance test. But if you build enough confidence, and if you have enough confidence in your build team and in your sprint teams, maybe they can also take over or automate your acceptance test. So that's what I see often in SAP. In a later slide, I will also explain a little bit more about the technical side of the landscape in SAP. Then it's the next topic for you again.
Thank you, Pepijn. Okay, so this was the environment. Oops, I have to bring that closer to my mouth. That helps. The question is how to go about that. What's the approach for business assurance? How to use automation? So what were some learnings there from our research? The one thing which is clearly evident is that the shift left, so meaning that you test or apply quality assurance measures as early as possible in the life cycle, hasn't happened broadly yet in the SAP world. So what you see, and this is depicted in the left chart, is where the majority of the effort is put. So what is given high attention by SAP projects? And you see these are the late stages. It is post-production. It is going live. So there, the majority of the effort is spent. This is not in line with, let's say, generic best practices of quality engineering, of course, but still it needs some way of mind change and a new way of working in some clients, that they also adapt that in the SAP world. So trying to apply test thinking as early as possible, meaning already in the design phase, and basically throughout the whole development process, and not only in a later test phase. And we ask also the question, that's then the right side of that graph, where do people think that they should invest more, and where do they have plans to do more? So the message as such has been understood. It should be in the development phase. It should be in early phases, also in the user acceptance test, but also in the system integration phase, where most effort should be spent. But we are not there yet. And so this is also one key learning. The other, and I mentioned that already before, the benefit of also using service virtualization early in the process, even in the design phase, even in the build phase, to mimic non-SAP environments, and by that having a better understanding of how your module affects the rest of the landscape has been understood. So it is as well early in the development phase, but certainly also in the integration testing phase, where service virtualization can bring a lot of benefits. And it is, on the one side, reducing the dependency on other owners of applications in the landscape. So if you imagine an end-to-end process of a complex environment where not only your own applications are affected, but outside companies which are beyond your control, it's quite complex to organize an end-to-end test and rely on the availability and good data quality end. So this is quite a lot of effort. And using service virtualization there is a game changer. It makes you faster, it makes you more cost efficient. So this is definitely something to think about. Yeah, and with that, I hand back again to Pepijn.
Yeah, because what Stefan is saying, we see a lot of these challenges, but now we need to test these challenges. Now, how do we prioritize these things? Is everything the same impact? Is it the same priority? Is it all critical? Where do we need to do our focus? What do we need to test first? So therefore, we have actually developed the SAP quality risk analysis. And the SAP quality risk analysis is, it's a combined approach with the IT people and the business people. And the outcome is like a weighted risk class. And as we all know, if we have insight in quality and risks, it will give us some confidence in the pursued business value. It's part of the voice model. If people don't know, it's part of the TMAP training. It will give you confidence, and as soon as we have confidence, then we can go live with it, because it will bring us the value what we need for. If we do this quality risk analysis, and we have a critical process, or we have a high-risk classified process, that also means we need to do more testing on this specific process, because we want to have more certainty, we want to have more confidence that this process is working fine. If it's a low process, and it's maybe only used by one user once a year, if something is going wrong, then the impact is less, not the whole organization is down. But for example, if a sales order, which are used on a daily basis, maybe multiple times per day, if that functionality is not working fine, or it's not configured fine, it's a high risk, because we cannot deliver our goods and we cannot sell our goods. But the last one is also very interesting. If there is no risk, we don't need to test it. But if there is no risk, are we really using it? Then we also should not actually develop it. So if there is no configuration needed, or if we not need it, we should actually disable those functionalities, because no need, no risk, no development. So that's one of these things. I often see that we especially in SAP, it's out of the box. We configure what we need, but what we don't need, we still leave it there. So it's still there, but we don't need it. Then disable it. But this is also applicable from the whole landscape, of course. No, especially, but when we do this SAP risk analysis, we actually do it on process level. So that can be from within SAP, it can also be the whole end-to-end processes, or actually it should be a mixture of both. So you focus on all the processes, but also the end-to-end processes. And if you talk about the end-to-end processes, we also cover the non-SAP systems, the third party and the legacy systems, then definitely, maybe it's a low risk or it's a high risk, because we use it. And if we use it, there is some kind of risk involved, then we should classify it, and then we can test it, and then we can use some kind of test design technique, which is unfortunately not used that often in SAP environments. But hopefully with this new training we can change that. But yeah, then it should be classified as a risk, and then it should be part of our regression test set or the user acceptance test set. What I said, it is a combined risk from the IT and business, so it's weighted. It's not only the game of the IT team, it's not only the game of the business team. No, we should, because quality, as a definition of quality, is a joint responsibility to achieve the right quality at the right moment. It's everyone's game. Everyone is responsible for quality, not only one team, one person. No, it's actually everyone involved in the business process. And especially in SAP, there are so many teams and stakeholders involved that it's important that all these noses are pointing in the same direction. We all should be aligned what is quality, and especially if we are in multiple countries, multiple locations, and we don't see each other physically. And actually yesterday we started officially with the training, and it was very, I think this is a good lesson learned. There were people from the finance team, there were people from the supply chain team. They never saw each other. No, they're working in the same location. I do something with supply chain. I just hand it over to finance and they will do the invoicing, the accounts payable, accounts receivable, whatever. They never have met each other. I think that's already the big win, that these people sit together, work together, and now you see a face of the work what you're doing, and I hand it over to you, and now you need to continue. Now next time you can also call each other or reach out to each other, but normally it's just like a big wall. They don't communicate, and I often see that in SAP, and we need to break down these barriers. The output for the risk analysis can be used in many different ways. So we can use it for test design. We start with which processes will we start with test case design, which test cases will we prioritize first to execution, but it can also help with prioritization when we find any defects. This process is a very risky process. We need to solve these defects first because it can impact a lot of the organization and maybe financial risk as well. Then the last topic, the challenges in SAP.
Are there any challenges?
No, not at all.
Okay. Yeah, indeed. Well, this was sort of a question to our respondents, and basically the main areas of concern are data security and cloud aspects. Because we learned it also in the previous presentation, data quality across the landscape can be a big issue, and the aspect of moving to the cloud in an SAP context is also relatively new for a lot of clients. So that is why that is being given a lot of importance, together also with performance testing, also together with the cloud aspect. So these are a few elements which are of specific concern. And here you see key challenges due to integration of SAP application with third non-SAP applications and devices, etc. So it's what I mentioned before, the complexity. Don't look at SAP testing singled out, as you mentioned also. It's always the question of end-to-end. How does a change in the outside world possibly affect, and it can be minor, it can be a little tweak which can have surprising impacts there. So these are challenges there. So the understanding of this complex landscape, the ability to have that overview, the ability to come up with a best suited test approach. It is to a lesser extent the technical skills or the tools availability. It's more the understanding of the complexity and the specific of the implementation in a client environment. Yeah, thank you for the question. So the question was for the move to the cloud, what are the specific challenges there, and what is the experience there? So on the one side, a question is, do you do that as a greenfield implementation or as a brownfield implementation? So do you start from scratch and create something new based on your ideal scenario, or do you say, no, I have valuable assets, I want to reuse them, which are completely different approaches then also with their different risk profiles also. Basically, it is on the one side a more, how should I say, straightforward approach, where the other is more a stepwise approach with different environments where you need to look at. And performance is a typical issue which should be brought in from the very beginning. Moving the cloud also has the data security aspect, so the access rules and regulations which need consideration. So I would single out those two as specific elements of concern which need attention. But maybe you have other experience in that area also. Huh? Sure. Yeah. Very good.
I can also elaborate a little bit on that.
That's good timing.
No, because what you're saying is, no, you have a lot of Z transactions, custom-made transactions, and now you want to make the move to the cloud. Often what you see, and if they use the SAP Activate methodology or any kind of methodology, you need to do that fit gap analysis. So the S4 has new functionalities, new features, it's new best practice. So is your standard or customized SAP, your Z or Y transactions, is that still covered, or is it not covered in the new solution? Yes or no? If it's covered in the new solution, you can go ahead with the standard best practice, but you need to do that fit gap analysis. But that fit gap analysis is often done by functional consultants, SAP functional consultants. And the risk I see there is that if you do this fit gap analysis, the fit gap analysis output is as good as the knowledge of this functional consultant who's leading this. If he's not up to speed with the latest development in, for example, a finance module or a supply chain module, he will use his knowledge to sit and do the workshop with all the people, and based on his knowledge, he will build the S4 best practices. But now SAP is developing and evolving very fast as well, and new functionalities are now deployed maybe daily, monthly, weekly. So he needs to keep up to speed. So the solution is as strong as his knowledge. So I see that as a risk. So you always need to challenge him. Exactly. Now, and one of these policies, it can be a company policy, you want to keep the core clean. So you want to stick to the best practice and the standards. Do you really need that customization? What is it added? And then I come back to, no, it's not here the voice model. What is the added value? Does it really bring value? If it brings value, then we need to test it. Then we need to implement and configure it. It will bring the confidence. If it doesn't bring you business value, why are we using it? Then stick to the best practice. And I always say, and maybe it's like I'm moving on thin ice right now, but a sales order in the Netherlands or a sales order in China, it's a sales order. What is different? I think your added value is not your back-end process or your back-office process. No, your added value is the product or service you deliver to the customer. Now, your administration, it's pretty basic. There are many companies doing that. Of course, now, there are distinguishers, and sometimes you need to have that fine-tuning, but generic, I don't see why we need all these kind of different details. But that's always a nice battle I like to do with the product owners and the people. Stefan already mentioned the key challenges from the survey. Well, luckily I can support him also from my experience. I understand what he is saying. So nowadays, SAP, heavy customization, it's very complex landscape, very complex architecture. Many systems are involved, the architecture, the non-SAP systems, the third-party systems. So we have complex interfaces as well. How do we maintain these interfaces? How are the messages going back and forward? And he already mentioned about service visualization. It can be a solution. But if we are in this situation, how do we handle data? How do we handle test data? How do we make sure that this test data is available in the whole end-to-end process? So I have something in my web portal, then it goes to Salesforce, and eventually it goes into my SAP system. Is that one product or one material is not available in one of these systems, my test process is already failing because, or it's blocked because the data is not available. So we need to have some smart solutions in place how to deal with that. yeah, we have regularities, we have law and legislations that we have to comply to in every country, and that's also developing. So that's a non-stop. Every year we have new laws, especially in HR or pension-related things. And all these SAP transformations, to be honest, it's not a one-week project. It's a multi-year project. So we also need to secure our knowledge there. So people go, people come. How do we assure? So we need to have some kind of test strategy, test policy in place that is reusable, but it's also easy to digest for people. Hey, I leave, then Stefan will take it over. And then, no, it's a vision. Yeah, and last but not least, performance and security validation. Now we move to the cloud. Is it still performing? We need to test that. What about security? If we now move to the cloud and the policy is a zero trust, can I still use my single sign-on and those kind of things? And all these things together will make it hard for organizations, and that's actually the middle line from build to run. You want to automate it, but they don't know where to start. So start small and then build it out slowly. But if you now do it on ECC, can you then reuse it? If you go to S4, do I start with my development or do I focus on the regression test or the UAT? It's all decisions you need to take. So I believe all these tools will help us, but without a vision, without a strategy, it's just a tool. The consequences, Stefan.
Yeah, I think we can keep that short. So basically, if it goes wrong, it hurts. So that's the simple message there. It can hurt in different ways, but anyway, it will not be nice. Only, let's say, 17% of the respondents of our survey didn't have any kind of bad experience there, so it's more than 80% who did have. And I don't need to elaborate also regarding the respect of time. We have 5 minutes left before the question and answers. So I hand back over and we learn a little bit more regarding end-to-end testing.
Yeah, I will go quickly to this one then. So the end-to-end testing, I will quickly go through it. So often it's thought it's a straight linear process. That's the theory. In practice, it's more complex. Now you have multiple steps, but in reality, especially in SAP systems, it's even a mess. Now you go back, you go forward, you need to do a credit check, we need to wait, and then it needs to be released. We go and continue, and eventually we can pick, pack, and ship our product, and the invoice is sent. So we need to go back and forward. This is the reality more in SAP. Maybe you're familiar with this picture, but this is like an ERP metro map, and some of these lines can be SAP, some of these lines can be non-SAP, but each bubble here, it's actually a department within the organization. They're responsible for their business processes. There should be some key users, maybe some business process owners in there. You already see how many stakeholders are involved here. So each bubble is a department, is a team. All these people need to be aligned. If it's SAP or non-SAP, this already looks complex, and the architecture behind this. How do we secure quality? So it's very important that all these people sit together, we engage them. And I already told you, I work in the sales department, and here's the finance department. They never talk with each other. In my opinion, that's just weird, but it happens, and it's pretty common in SAP. When we look at end-to-end, we have actually two flavors. We have vertical and horizontal end-to-end. And the vertical, actually, it says here on the screen, here in this process, we have 5 examples. So when we want to do the real horizontal end-to-end testing, we need to make sure that the verticals, so my web portal is working correctly, my Salesforce is working correctly, my SAP is working correctly. As soon as I have confidence in that these solutions are working fine, then I can actually move to my business process. Do I need to test this very securely? Probably if this is working fine, I can do some light testing over here. It's more like the integration. Now, if the message is going back and forth between these systems, I will have pretty some confidence. And I can also, again here, maybe I can virtualize this part. So I'm not dependent that much on all the applications in the landscape. And then it's your business case. We'll catch up time.
Thank you very much. Okay. I really love to share this case because it gives a lot of, how should I say, insight into a maturity journey which we were able to take with this Swedish car manufacturer. So actually, they had the ambition to work in a very agile way, but they realized that one thing was keeping them back, namely regression testing. Performing a regression test would take them 5 weeks, and this is not in line with an agile ambition. So they needed to do something there, and we were invited to support them, and basically with the ambition to work towards continuous testing. So basically integrated into a DevOps environment, which is quite a step to take. Actually, it's not one step, it is 4 steps which we took with them, and it took us 1.5 years. Also meaning you can't just overnight become world champion, you need to have a solid basement there. And it starts with getting the basics right. It is about understanding the principles of testing. What is a test strategy? How do I organize test management? But also defining the spot on the horizon. How good do I want to be? Or how fast do I need to be? And to define the processes in line with that ambition. So do I really want to have a daily release capability, or is less good enough for me? And depending on that, you define processes. For instance, is it in-sprint automation? I think we heard that before. Ideally, that's what we would like to see, but it needs a certain discipline, and it needs skills, and it needs, let's say, a routine in order to achieve that. So this is basically what happened in the first step. Set the basics, define the goal. Then it was about now, as we have a stable basis with processes defined and implemented, now we can do automation. And that was mainly then the UI level automation. Tosca had been selected at that stage and was used extensively. So that was good. And also the test data automation was tackled in that approach, which is another critical element. And with that, you already have a very solid solution in place, which is good enough for a lot of, let's say, clients regarding what they want to achieve. But if you have the ambition to move towards DevOps, you need to do more. And the third step, which we did, is a different approach to end-to-end automation. So basically, the idea of not doing a full automation of everything, but to apply the principle of service virtualization, which I already mentioned there, which helped them to really bring down the time needed for regression testing dramatically. So it's brought back to 3 hours nowadays, which is a tremendous step from the initial, let's say, duration which we had. And this gave them the confidence that they could integrate it into their DevOps landscape, and they're very happy with the result there. Implementing that required to have specific skills. Not all the agile teams were able to implement a test automation framework and to maintain that. So we implemented a specialized test automation factory team. Same for service virtualization. Also there, it is a dedicated team which supports that. So don't expect everybody to know everything. And this is then the way how to implement that. And the lessons learned from that, basically, if you want to have that kind of speed, you need to scale up your test maturity. So there is a direct relation between how good you are in applying quality engineering and testing practices and the kind of speed which you are able to apply. And that means applying the shift left, including test-driven development, really is essential to achieve that, and to apply automation in a far-reaching way is a key element also. So this is the nutshell version of a beautiful story which we implemented there. And I think we have a minute left for, for all your questions. Any questions left, please?
One last question.
I think the principle stays the same. It's more that there was no need for a long time to do the step, and that is why the learning curve is now just picking up for some companies. Some already have done that, and some are fully in a DevOps mode with integrated SAP landscape. So the principles apply in both parts of the world.
All right, thanks a lot, Stefan and Pepijn. We are out of time. The good news is we got a 40 minutes break right now. 3:20, the next session will be in this room. It will be about Doc Morris, the online apotheek. Willem Jan is in front of this room, so don't stay in this room. Grab a cup of coffee, go to the Team Up Quality Engineering stand, and I'll see you back in 40 minutes in this room.